Well, the truth is the localism agenda is huge, and as people quite rightly pointed out in the debate, it's linked to issues about welfare benefit reform, for instance, which is not about localism, about financial retrenchment, which is not about localism. So the localism agenda is broad and it stretches out into other areas.
Well, ideally, I think localism means taking decisions at the right place, closest to the people affected by them.
Well, it's about taking the powers out of Whitehall and Westminster and passing them back down to local councils and local communities, so that instead of a top-down system of power, we have a bottom-up system of power, and that's it and all about it.
No, I can't provide a definition for localism, which is one of my issues, that it's a rather nebulous concept. And so the issue is, whilst it's a fantastic idea, we need to put some more meat on the bone. And I suspect it might evolve over time, but almost a case of let's try things and see how they work before we get a definitive of what it is and what it isn't, rather through trial and error.
My understanding is it's obviously devolving the decision making down to the local level. Now that I hope will be the local authority level, but clearly there's a lot of indication it's going to be down below that to neighbourhood or parish or whatever level one can define it as, which will be sub-local authority level. And the interesting thing is going to be how much of the decision making will be at that level below the local authority.
Well, ideally it should give councils more freedom and flexibilities. What I'm going to say in the debate today is the difficulty with that is if it's just the freedom and flexibilities to where the axe should fall in terms of cuts, then I don't think that it will bring freedom and flexibilities, because the flexibility to decide how to make cuts is not really the sort of localism that the most authorities and most of their population really want.
One of the things I have concerns about is you can't argue against the idea of devolving power to communities and involving the big society. There are some practical issues about the tension that may arise then between what local communities want, what the council wants and what the government wants, and how do you resolve those. So, transfer of assets to the individuals, planning powers being relaxed by the centre where local people may not want them. So until we see the localism bill, it's difficult to say what it will mean for local councils, but I suspect there will inevitably be tensions between the three parties, the community, the council and the government.
I think it will. I think we're in a very difficult time in terms of the economy and people having the confidence to take risks and do different things. But I know that the Labour government tried through the General Power of Wellbeing, but I think that was quite limited. And I know that the LGA has for some time wanted a General Power of Competence, and I think that's an appropriate thing to be taken forward at this time. Because in reality, if something is good for local people and there's not a specific reason, there's no prohibition on doing it, then a local authority should be able to do it.
The difficulty is that for making the bill work, I think will be allowing councils the flexibility to make mistakes. One of the issues that I have is that the relationship between DCLG and councils is very much a parent and child, and we have to have a more balanced and grown-up relationship. And if councils make mistakes, they must be allowed to make their mistakes. If they have a decision which the centre don't like, they have to be allowed to have that decision. So from my point of view, for localism to work, it has to allow the community and the councils to come to a conclusion what's right for them. If it's wrong for the centre, there has to be a grown-up discussion rather than the centre then is simply imposing its will, in which case localism will fall at the first hurdle.
I felt that quite a number of the panel, spoke quite candidly, weren't, were hitting the key points rather than just making speeches. So that was useful.
Well, I thought it was a good, lively debate, a very broad range of questions. I don't think there were any questions which I haven't heard quite a few times, because I think people have got common concerns about, what are we really up to? Is it some sort of a trick? Do we know what we're doing? I hope I gave enough of an account to show that it's not a trick and we do know what we're doing.